Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, I'm just out doing my afternoon walk routine. So as you can see, hear some people in the background. So, anyways, it was just one of those kind of things that I was kind of going through like the other day, to where I was great. Now I'm forgotten the train of thought, but it was like the other day about all the stuff that was going on. So I've already had done a really long video blog on my Mr. Rukage 99 channel, since that's the only channel that has no strikes and whatsoever, and then the fact that I can pretty much could have a video past the 15-minute mark. The Mr. Rukage channel one I can only do up to 15 minutes because of that one strike. Well, even though it's already been stricken from it, not stricken, I should say, expired, a couple of months ago. But still, that strike, if it kind of rendered me ineligible to have, the whole unlimited time in that channel. But I don't know if I would actually lose that unlimited time feature with any other channel if I end up getting a strike. I think I probably would, but then, as I kind of said earlier, it's been about a year since my original Rukage 99 channel had gone under due to some false flags. And I've already kind of explained it on there at least about 2 or 3 times as far as what got me there in that position was simply because of the mirrors that I had on that channel that were flagged. These weren't necessarily my videos, although I did have maybe a warning strike or whatever it was, around I think it was around August of 2008, where I had that one video about where I was making fun of the S-on-8 people. But it's kind of funny, So I'll have to kind of go around and talk a little bit more about all the other situations there. So, anyways, so I'm probably gonna at least start by explaining all that kind of stuff right now, instead of just waiting to get it all done in another video, But so I'm like that kind of person that wants to kind of at least try to do it as much as possible before I have to stop for certain things, So, anyways, although I never really had used that whole scene a lot, before, about a couple of years ago, I think on LiveJournal, that I would say that a couple times, the build-ups or meltdowns in a way. And I would say it's the build-up or meltdown is usually what I refer to when I try to do certain social situations, and the Asperger's seems to kick in at the worst kind of moments when I wanted to talk to someone about something, whether if it was asking a teacher about a help on an assignment or some sort, or calling some guy that I actually kind of like to schedule a date or whatever. Then I end up getting all choked up at some point and have a hard time trying to talk to people. That's what I usually mean by the whole Asperger's meltdown or Asperger's build-up in a way. That is hard for me to describe the whole feeling of that matter. Although, I think I had said it a couple times on on my life journal or on, I don't know about here, as far as that goes. I had talked about having those fugue states. At least that's what I call it. But it's where I just have this sort of going into some sort of an intense emotional stage where I'm kind of completely out of it, and some emotionally where I kind of lose perspective of everything. And then it's, not just perspective like the world around me, but also maybe like the world in me in some ways. But that sort of state happened maybe several times. But it's usually that happens when it's like the first time I'm dealing with certain trying or emotional things. I guess I can recall as far as the first real major fugue state that lasted for a really long time. I think I could probably say it could be from senior year, but just that whole entire senior year in some cases, because there was all this family problems, and then of course the fact of having all this sort of pressure to do all sorts of things, as far as when you're a senior in high school. That sort of whole senior right is accumulating all that, and then all that sort of stuff and I think that kind of state that was, kind of might have lasted all the way maybe about maybe even almost like 2 years after high school. That I was going around that one trying time for myself, as far as trying to discover who I really am and all that sort of stuff, and then being bombarded by everybody else's not necessarily like helping me in some cases, but maybe just everybody else's what they think I should be, rather than what I actually am. And I think after that whole 2 years of all this nonsense, then had to leave, try to figure out who I am. So, as I kind of said, it was just a lot of those trying times when you're at that age. Especially if it was like the first 2 or 3 years out of high school, and then you had to try to figure out who you really are. And it usually takes about 2 or 3 years or even longer for somebody to figure out who they really are. And I think for me, it took me that long to do that, to try to figure out who I really am. As far as where I want to go in life and all that. As far as jobs, career, jobs, and where I want to live, who I want to be with, that sort of thing. But so I guess I could say it's just that it might have been the first or the second year after that, where I had all this sort of bombardment, and I think I just really lost sight of who I am, and then I really kind of lost my voice. Not necessarily like that. I'm just seeing it in more of a figurative sense, if you know what I mean. When I say that I lost my voice, and then this was all account of all the whole problems I was having during the senior year, and all this other stuff that was going on. and I end up like losing my voice during that whole. I think it was kind of like at the end of '99, all the way up to a little bit, kind of around the fall or winter of '01 in some ways. And I think I just had a hard time trying to get everybody off my back as far as what it is I wanted to do in my life. I think I've already had realized what caused the whole problem in the first place, and then I don't know if there was ever really that much of a solution to that matter. I think the solution was right in front of me, that I didn't really have to waste all my time and energy trying to figure out things with people like that, and especially if it was the fact that that I was only going to be in an adult transition for a while, and that I could always figure things out afterwards instead of just having to figure it out right when I was there, to tell the truth. So, anyways, as I was saying, it was just not just the whole adult transition that was in my way, but I think there was a lot of other stuff. But as I could say early on, afterwards, out of high school, I think one of the things I kind of really wanted at that time was, now I remember, one of the things I really wanted at that time was maybe just to have like a year off, or maybe almost, not necessarily like a year off, and maybe just a couple months off to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And I've been through a whole lot as far as emotionally, as far as with all the stress of senior year and all that sort of stuff, and all these other family problems. I mean, I figure as far as that goes, Mom and Dad definitely would have understood and would have been supportive of me of wanting to take a year off or something of that extent to figure out what it is I want to do. But however, it was like the whole IEP people and the adult transition people didn't see it that way, perhaps. And so, in some ways, that kind of also explained away during the first year why I was being all reluctant to do all these sort of things. And it was not necessarily because I didn't want to. It was just because I was just too emotionally exhausted, and I just wasn't really ready to do these sort of things, as far as like that one job that they were going to try to have me work at Kinko's, even though it was only about like 3 or 4 months out of high school, and I just wasn't really ready to do that. It was kind of like at maybe just about 2 or 3 years afterwards, when that sort of thing came to light, that I turned that sort of thing down, because I just wasn't really ready to do that just yet. And in some ways, I think that maybe they do need to kind of at least be a little bit more mindful of all the students that kind of come in there and not seem to have all these sort of goals like that for them to start off, because they just don't know what they really want, and it would take them maybe about an entire 6 months or a year for them to be emotionally ready for all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also they have to be at least mindful of the parents, because a lot of the parents there that come into that all have this concerns about every little thing, and at the same time also have empty nest syndrome, and that kind of played a larger role with all this little situation that came around with me, that maybe Mom and Dad did have a little bit of a empty nest syndrome, but at the same time, I think they also had other little things they had to take care of before they could ever really take care of the whole empty nest syndrome, And it was like the same thing that happened with Todd that I had to explain to people, as far as my best friend from high school. That at the time, it was like the first year out of high school, then Todd actually started. It was until like about 6 months afterwards, and that's when he started dating a girl. And I think the relationship with her would have had a little bit more of a normal kind of relationship if it hadn't been for his parents getting in the way of it. But I think it was just for that matter that maybe his parents weren't really emotionally ready to be dating, to have Todd dating a girl or a guy for that matter, if Todd was gay, but he isn't, but believe me, that sort of relationship kind of only lasted maybe, and I remember now, it was Todd's relationship with that girlfriend only lasted maybe about, I think it was about 6 months, and then there was about another 2 more months afterwards, but it was mainly because of his parents were in the way, and that they just weren't really emotionally ready to accept the fact that Todd would be dating and then possibly getting engaged and all that sort of stuff. And that was kind of one of the reasons why I kind of put off dating at that time, that I was afraid that mom and dad was going to do the same thing, whether if I was dating a girl or dating a guy, But it wasn't until probably a little bit towards the end of it was towards the end of like 2001 was when I kind of left the whole adult transition for greener pastures, And I think it was just simply, as I kind of said a lot of times, that I just wish there would have been a little bit more better to handle me at the start of it, But at that time, Asperger's syndrome wasn't really been on the books long enough for anybody to know what it is. And it's like now everybody knows, at least somewhat to a degree, although there are some people that are still say it's a fake disease and all, but they're just being ignorant of that matter. But as I would say before, it's just with that okay, I'm already lost the train of thought. With that was just part of the whole reason why things in the adult transition didn't go very well. But although it also took me another year, well, okay, I forgot how long that would be. That would probably be at least almost 2 years after that to kind of actually come out to myself and come out to everybody else. It was right around that time in 2003. And that was also because all the other little things were over with, the family problems and all that sort of stuff, It was already over with. And although I have stated on what it was on my old channel, but now I kind of feel like I don't really want to state it there. Although I have stated it on LiveJournal about a couple of years ago about the whole situation, But as I can say, it's just that some people would also see these kind of things on MSNBC and all that sort of stuff, and then don't realize that's all manufactured just for the entertainment and the ratings, for that matter. But as I could say, it's just one of those little things that I had to kind of like be mindful of. But although, as I kind of had to go around and all that, it did took me quite a while for me to come out. And although I had mentioned it on one of my videos as far as it gets better about how the whole coming out process came to be. And although I figure I'll have to like say it right now, because otherwise I'm just going to forget about it. So during the Go 3, I was having all these other little family problems and stuff like that, and I think it got too intense for me to, to handle. And so Mom was still in her apartment in Irving and had no one else there but herself. And so I kind of decided that I want to go live over there for a while. But as I could say, it's just that Mom had like a job over there. It was not that Mom and Dad were divorced or anything of that sort. It was just a job thing. But although I had to kind of explain out that, as I said early on my last video, that was probably the only thing that me and Eloy really had in common, to tell the truth. Other than that, I don't think I really had that much in common with him. And then as far as like the whole goals for the future, we've gotten away and all that sort of stuff. So, as I kind of said earlier about that now. So, anyways, as I was there, I think I was already starting to come out a little bit, And it was kind of like around June or July, I think, when I was taking that one summer class. But then it was like around July was when I was like decided to try to come out a little bit. But not just July, but I think it was earlier in that year that I was making a goal in myself to try to come out. And I guess in some ways I was trying to kind of at least to say like, oh, well, what do you want to like declare yourself? Do you want to declare yourself as bi or gay? Because for one thing, it was like I know that I'm attracted to guys, but as far as with girls, it was like I'm not really exactly sure about that. It wasn't until like afterwards that I kind of realized, you know what? I was just only saying that I like girls or something like that because I didn't want to be labeled that way, or at that time when I just wasn't really ready to accept that label of being gay. So, anyways, although I should also say it was what also helped me was that site called comingoutstories.org. And at the same time, I think it was also, I forgot her name, or I just only know her first name. It was just Donna, but she was like the woman who ran the Dallas chapter of PFLAG at the time. I don't know if she still has run the chapter, but then she was helping me kind of come out a little bit. But in the same way, there was also other places that I could have also turned to if I needed help, as far as coming out. Because the funny thing is that while I was there was also that church, the Cathedral of Hope, and it was like what people said is like it's supposed to be like the largest gay church there. And at the time, it was a part of the Metropolitan Community Church, and then it broke away from that denomination a few years ago and became an independent church, an independent non-denominational church, and then it was just about a few years ago when it became a part of the United Church of Christ. And I think anybody that probably might have saw the United Church of Christ ads back in '04, where it kind of caused a lot of controversy there, but like how some of the other news stations refused to air these kind of ads there because it was controversial. But they were kind of just showing everybody that they're just more of an opening and accepting church, rather than there's these other churches like the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church or any of these other, or the Mormon Church that could care less about gays and lesbians and rather just simply refuse to accept them for what God made them. But as I kind of stated before, it's just I'm not really that religious, but in some ways I'm just kind of paying lip service to the Catholic Church until such and such time, and when they start to accept people like me as a child of God, But as I kind of said before, it's like, not that I was ever really planning on giving up on all of that. It's just, I have to be in somewhat ways of just trying to accept these kind of things with people, as far as with the church. They're having all of its conundrums and people who are just power hungry and self-aggrandizing for what? Nothing. So, anyways, I think that's part of it right now. So, see you guys next time.